Singapore's digital economy has grown to 106 billion Singapore dollars as of 2022. Now, this includes the nation's Infocomm sector and digitalisation in the rest of the economy. And let's put that into context. Singapore's digital economy accounted for over 17% of the nation's gross domestic product as of 2022. And that is up from about 13% 5 years prior, according to a first-of-its-kind report put out by the Infocomm Media Development Authority.
Well, we speak to Mr. Lew Chuen Hong. He's Chief Executive at the Infocomm Media Development Authority. Welcome. Thanks so much for coming into the studio this evening.
Thank you for having me.
I'll take us through why this digital economy report is so significant.
Well, maybe if I take a step back, I think all of us intuitively feel like and understand the impact of digital and digital technology. Some of it we feel personally, be it what you buy on e-commerce sites or what you watch from media platforms. Some of it less seen, for example, the impact it has on supply chains of companies. So I think what our inaugural digital economy report shows is really that total strength of that digital economy in Singapore. And at 17% translated, if you look in your wallet, out of every $6, $1 is generated as a result of some digital activity. And actually over the past 5 years, in absolute amount, that has more than doubled to about $106 billion. But what is really encouraging to us is that in that overall economy, it's not just the traditional, what we call tech sector or tech companies, but really the majority, actually 2/3 of it, which is about 12%, is actually driven by the broader base of digitalization across the rest of the sectors. And this ranges from manufacturing to trading and so on and so forth.
So it's deeply embedded.
It is. And actually the whole idea is that it is a catalyst that uplifts the rest of the economy. And then as a result, because of this very broad base, actually it's generated a lot of jobs. I think as it stands today, close to 200,000 very good jobs in the digital economy overall. So I think it's a very strong testament to the digital transformation that companies have undergone. And I think it behooves us to double down and continue to pay attention and focus, because I think digital is going to be a big part of the economy going forward.
As it is around the world as well.
Indeed.
Mr. Lew, but there is currently no internationally accepted standard, if you will, on measuring the digital economy, and it varies from region to region. How does this report actually get around that?
Well, because we wanted to go beyond just measuring the traditional tech sector, the tech industry or the vertical, and to try and measure that across a much broader economy, we used quite an established technique called growth accounting. And in simple terms, it basically says, where does the growth come from? Does it come from labor? Does it come from capital? In this particular case, we isolated the growth that comes from digital capital investments. So this is buying hardware, computers, or implementing software and programs. And that is how we're able to measure that as a horizontal. Indeed, there are no internationally accepted standards today, but we really wanted to have the ability to look at our own economy as a Singapore, and then how does that drive us forward?
Right. Well, the report also highlights opportunities for digitalization. We talked to a company that has taken to this, just like fish to water.
Hi, I'm Jimmy. I'm the second-gen seafood retailer of this business. I'm the founder of Thankfully Fresh. I'm mainly in charge of the digitalization of this business. This business has been in the seafood industry for the past 30 years. I just joined recently, around 3 years ago. So I think that in order to follow the younger crowds, I try to rebrand it. One day, my dad went to IMDA workshop, right, and he voiced his concern regarding the market trend. They introduced us a marketing agency and see how we can bring this very traditional business on board the e-commerce scene and go digitalization. At first, my parents especially is quite skeptical regarding the marketing platform, because this is the first time they are exposed to marketing and e-commerce, so there's a lot of unknown for them. So it took quite a lot of quite a lot of months to actually slowly see the revenue start coming in. So I would say it's not difficult if you persist on. So currently we are on quite a lot of third-party platforms, and we integrate this omni-channel to help us better manage our inventory and manage our order.
The growth of Singapore's digital economy comes on the back of increasing adoption of technologies by small and medium-sized enterprises like Thankfully Fresh. Almost all, or 94%, said they adopted some form of tech into their business last year. Well, that's up from 74% in 2018. However, there's still a large gap between SMEs and bigger companies in how much tech is actually being adopted. On average, SMEs adopted 2 technologies per firm last year. This compares to about 6 for larger companies. The report showed that while most SMEs were quick to adopt e-payment solutions, they were slower to take on more complex ones, such as data analytics and artificial intelligence. Mr. Lew, let's get back to you on this one. Now, Thankfully Fresh is not a large company. It's an SME, and I just looked it up, defined as less than $100 million in annual turnover and fewer than 200 employees. Would you say SMEs need more help to adopt digital technologies, and can IMDA do more for them?
That's a great question. Well, I think it's actually been very positive, because I think over the last 5 years, both in terms of the breadth, the level of adoption overall, as you said, has gone up from about 74 to 95%. And then the intensity of how much tech they use has also gone up to about 2 and slightly more than 2. But you are right, compared to large companies, they probably need a little bit more support and a bit more help. As you can see in some of the more ready and low-hanging fruits like e-payments, actually they do really quite well. But in some of the more advanced areas, for example, like data analytics, I think a little bit more help and support. And actually, we encourage them to do just 2 very simple things. One, we have this platform called CTO as a service. You know, you're not able to hire your own CTO, just go on the platform.
CTO?
Chief Technology Officer.
Right.
So it's the Chief Technology Officer as a service, because we aggregate that as a demand, and then basically allow companies to tap on it as they require. And on this one-stop portal, just get on it. It will give you that first steps from the very basics to the slightly even more advanced. And if you really needed a face-to-face help, you can actually give an actual CTO a call. So I think that would be my encouragement for that very first step. And then, of course, for specific sectors, we have what is called our industry digitalisation plans. And it actually lays out in a quite systematic fashion how you would go about climbing that overall digital ladder. And again, just adopting a very simple data-related solution, for example, like a CRM, customer relationship management solution. Our data shows that on average, the productivity savings have been 50%, and in some cases, close to 75%. So I think we're trying to make it as easy as possible for SMEs, and we'll really encourage them to just come on board.
All right. Well, we're talking about firms, but it's not all about firms. It's also about new tech roles for Singaporeans. We spoke to an individual who switched jobs to join the sector.
Hi, my name is Melissa Chua. I'm currently an associate software developer at Temus. I used to be in marketing, where I wrote a lot of content. I did a lot of copywriting and editing. During COVID, I had a lot of free time on my hands, so I thought about picking up Python on my own. I used an e-learning platform and watched some YouTube tutorials. And after that taste, I knew I really loved it. Then I found the Step It Up program, which is run by Temus in partnership with IMDA. Now I'm currently working full-time at Temus. I'm doing full-stack, pro-code, cloud app development. I think the biggest challenge is if you're a mid-career switcher, you've worked 8 to 10 years in your previous industry, you've developed some form of expertise, then you start off in a new industry and you basically start off as a novice all over again. And that can be a bit uncomfortable for certain people unless you have that mindset of, I'm willing to learn, I'm willing to get comfortable with being uncomfortable, I'm willing to admit that there are things I don't know. At the same time, I'm willing to take initiative to pick up skills beyond maybe my job scope, something that interests me.
Well, people like Melissa contribute to the labour flow into the tech sector. The number of tech-related jobs is growing at a fast pace. About 155,000 people held such jobs in 2017. Last year, this number had risen to over 201,000. More than 70% of these jobs are held by Singaporeans. Now, those holding tech jobs earned a median monthly salary of about $7,300. This is 60% more than the median wage of $4,500 for all other jobs. To benefit from this growth in the digital economy, IMDA says that demand for tech jobs is likely to remain healthy as the economy's digitalisation deepens. Mr. Lew, the story of Melissa and her experience there that we just heard, I mean, she was hardly lucky. This was a personal journey. She took the initiative and she loved it. She fell into something that really spoke to her. We've heard a lot as well about tech layoffs within the IT sector and in related industries. Tell us what the job landscape is like for somebody like Melissa who's interested and goes on that similar journey.
Well, the overall economy, of course, is affected by macroeconomic factors and the environment. But if you look really at the long run, the idea of digital as a structural factor of transformation is going to remain for many years to come. And especially because the tech jobs in Singapore are not just what we call it the tech companies. That is the more visible part. Actually, 60% of the jobs are actually in the non-tech companies, as I said, across the rest of the sector. So there's actually huge resilience as far as the job market is concerned. And actually, even as some of these tech companies were laying off, they were actually quietly being hired by the other companies in the sector. So actually, we do think that the job market and the overall demand for tech jobs is going to remain strong for many years to come. And I think we're always really inspired by stories like Melissa. And actually, in Melissa's case, if you have a particular domain in which you already specialize in, and then you add a tech skill, actually, you are far more valuable and employable. And IMDA is always very happy to help with our Tech Skills Accelerator program to both give you that training as well as then to place you in that job that's required.
All right, Mr. Lew, earlier you had some recommendations for SMEs, how you can help and how they can help themselves. Let's take a step back from that bigger picture. What can the IMDA do for Singapore's path of digitalisation, larger picture?
That's a good question. I mentioned that I think digital is going to be a very important structural trend in the long run. And therefore, to tap it, perhaps we need to look at some foundational investments that we need to do. I think first and foremost, we have to get the core foundational digital infrastructure right. That forms a key base. We talk about digital infrastructure in the more traditional areas. This sort of goes all the way from connectivity and submarine cables to the ability to do last mile fiber to the home, broadband, and all the way to mobile, and even increasing now, for example, compute and high-end accelerated compute. But at the same time, it's not just about traditional hard infrastructure. We're starting to build what we call the digital utility stack, which is the soft infrastructure. Some of the stuff that we're more familiar with, for example, payment, identity, but some of the other areas that really benefit companies like data sharing or the ability to what we call attest. That means that this particular document actually holds legal status. So getting that foundational infrastructure right, I think, is one key element that we'll continue to invest in. But at the same time, I think the idea of doubling down, and we talked about it, getting companies to adopt digital technologies, both in the smaller companies as well as the larger ones, encouraging startups, making sure that large companies anchor more product development activities in Singapore. I think that continues to be a very important second pillar. The third pillar is to make sure we generate new knowledge, to invest in R&D, invest in everything from AI, which we do, to comms and connectivity, to trust, to cybersecurity, to networks. I think that forms the future of growth and that new sort of knowledge. And of course, last but not least, invest in our people, invest in talent, both in the way they're trained in university, as well as continuing education, so that we have more stories like Melissa.
Yeah. Well, 10 years or maybe even 15 years ago, we were talking about digital transformation as the fourth industrial revolution. But today it's something that is so pervasive. It's in everybody's life, whether you're in the tech sector or not. What's contributing now as we go forward from 2023 to Singapore's digital landscape?
Well, I think actually the idea is digital becomes so pervasive that it becomes invisible. That whatever company you are, actually you are at some level also a digital company. You can be an F&B business, you can be a supply business, you can be a retail business. I think if we're able to embed that, it allows us to overcome many of the fundamental constraints in Singapore. For example, manpower, the lack of resources, and most importantly, through digital, the ability to access markets from around the world. So if digital can be embedded thoroughly in our entire economy, I think that future will be bright.
Mr. Lew, thank you so much for coming into the studios.
Thank you.
And sharing the interesting points of this new report by IMDA. Thank you very much.
Thank you, my pleasure.
Lew Chuen Hong there, Chief Executive at the Infocomm Media Development Authority.